Hi, folks. Welcome back. Dennis Fatoz, also known as F Noodles. And today we're going to be talking about something, or rather somebody I haven't talked about in many years. In fact, I feel an instant awe loss just mentioning her name on this channel. We're talking about Tana Mongeau. The reason we're bringing her up is because she recently went viral on X after criticizing Clavicular. Now, for anybody who isn't familiar, Clavicular is an online streamer who initially gained fame because of his proclivities toward looks maxing. This man does things to improve his appearance that, look, I know there's a niche audience on the internet that appreciates this, but as a straight up 41-year-old man, I think that stuff is just corny. I say go exercise, regulate your diet. I don't think you need to go as far as getting plastic surgery if you're a man or even a woman. Now, if you want to go get your nose done as a man, that's up to you. Hair plugs, that's a little more understandable, but some of this stuff is just really not for me. That being said, Clavicular has become a very popular figure in this post-red pill space. He's been making waves for months now. The way I'm speaking right now is just so unbelievably cringe to me. I can't even believe I just said making waves. But anyway, he's been traveling all over the world. He went to Israel. He lives down in Miami. He's been to Los Angeles. He's basically everywhere all at once, constantly doing things that get attention. A lot of it goes viral. Hell, I mean, I even saw this guy did an interview with Sean Hannity, of all people. Anyway, he recently came under fire from Tana Mongeau, who accused him of being immoral and cruel to people for the sake of money and fame. Specifically, the Mongeaus pointed to his on-stream argument with his girlfriend, Lily, as an example of the type of content she believes crosses the line. So here's a 2-minute clip of the Mongeaus going off on Clavicular, and I'll see you on the other side, I guess.
You know how many men look like Clavicular? If you walk down Melrose, you will see 100 men who look like Clavicular. However, if you walk down Melrose, you will not see 100 girls who look like her. Like, she literally is a Victoria's Secret supermodel, and watching this girl get so mistreated and broken up with and begging for him back. And I saw this clip the other day where she was like, my grandma watches the streams. I like almost whatever. And maybe I just need to clav off, right? I need to get off clav talk. Because here's the thing, Tana, yeah, you couldn't even save people that you knew. I can't save people in the Clavicular universe. And it's very sad to me. I would honestly love to sit down with him. I'm so intrigued just on the psychology behind all of it. And I get that it works, but if the only answer is that it works, if the only answer is that it's bringing in views and revenue, what switch is flipped in your brain to be so okay with being so immoral and cruel to people just for like the benefits of it working, you know? And I know that the streamer universe, kind of a lot of them, it teeters along the line of that, right? And this isn't me putting the gavel down on anyone. I'm just genuinely deeply interested in the psychology behind being okay with being any way to people, morals aside, all morals aside too. I think there's lines to it, right? Like sometimes you do something a little outlandish for views. I see things like that and I would never say anything about it. I just think it's like the way he's being to this woman is like jarring to me. It's just crazy. Lily, I love you. Please come on Brand Safe. I would love to hang out. I would love to tell you all about all the times I was in situations very similar to yours and they didn't end up working, and how they ended up fucking me up for the next 6-7 years to come, killing myself and just dating, and how it ends up then like fucking up your actual patterns for love and children. You know, it's very hard to when you're 19 and 20 and 21. You know, it's easy to be with a man and romanticize like, oh my God, we're gonna have a family, but like that's as far as the thoughts go. You're not actually sitting and deeply thinking about, what if the father of my children spoke to me this way in front of my daughter, you know? And maybe you are thinking about that, but then like you're letting the toxic patterns convince you to still stay, and that change can be had, and that that's not who the person really is, and like, etc. It just, I don't know. I've been really bothered.
Now, to be absolutely clear, folks, this is an online prostitute moralizing over a streamer reality show with what looks like merch or maybe decoration that says Xanax behind her. Really? Is that what we're doing now? Did you need like 4 different camera angles, by the way, to capture this? Did you need the side profile angle? Did you need the close-up? Do you wear the glasses just to try to sound smart and distract from all the lip injections you've gotten? Really? Did you have to put your oiled up legs right in front of the camera? What even is this? What are we watching? This woman can't even conclude a single thought. She's just all over the place. Now, look, I have to preempt this before we even get into this. I don't watch Clavicular streams. I see his clips come up every so often, but I'm not interested in watching them. I don't know the full context behind a lot of what he does. I've actually never seen a clip of him fighting with his girlfriend. The only clips I've ever really seen are the ones of him getting into fistfights in Miami that end up circulating on X. That's not content that personally appeals to me. I'm 41 years old, folks. I'm not going to sit there watching that kind of stuff. I know people who do. I've had interns who watch him and have told me about his content, and they seem to enjoy it. More power to them. It's just not really my cup of tea. What I do want to understand is why Tana Mongeau, who's like basically 30 years old, is out here complaining about what people who are 19 or 20 years old and the kind of content they're making for an audience is primarily made up of people their own age. Who cares? Why is this the hill that you've decided to die on, Tana? But all that being said, let's actually break down her arguments in good faith and explain why I think they're completely off base. I think they're dishonest, and I think they're built on assumptions that simply don't hold up once you establish the basic reality of what Clavicular's content actually is. At its core, his content is entertainment. It's a reality show delivered through a streaming platform. That's what it is. It's no different conceptually from what MTV used to do with the real world. The only difference is that instead of a television network packaging and distributing the content, it's being streamed live on the internet. The format is the same. The incentives are the same. And the audience is just a little different. It's primarily Gen Z men, or at least that's been my observation. I'm sure women watch him too, but almost every person I've personally known who watches Clavicular or talks about him has been a younger guy. So once we establish that basic reality, that this is essentially reality television for a younger internet audience, then we can actually evaluate Tana's arguments in the proper context. And while we're doing that, I'm also going to compare some of what she's saying to her own history online, because I think it highlights just how thoroughly hypocritical a lot of her criticism is. Now, to her first point, she says that if you walk down Melrose, you'll see 100 men who look like Clavicular. First of all, Clavicular doesn't even live in Los Angeles. Second of all, Melrose is pretty dead. As of the moment that we're speaking in time, it's nowhere near what it was just about 10 years ago. Not that many people are walking around Melrose anymore. And honestly, if they are walking around Melrose and they're guys, they're probably either gay or trans. That's just the reality of what that area has become. So yes, it would actually make sense that a higher percentage of those guys have had cosmetic procedures done on their faces. Melrose isn't what it used to be. West Hollywood isn't what it used to be. Frankly, most of Los Angeles isn't what it used to be. It's overpriced, and a lot of it just isn't that enjoyable anymore because huge portions of the city have completely gone into decay. That's one of the reasons so many people have moved to places like Austin and Miami, and that's actually where Clavicular lives. So now, let's look at the actual variables involved here. You have a young man who's famous, wealthy, travels the world, and is one of the biggest streamers on the internet. Whether you like him or not, he is firmly on the top 1% of the male dating market in terms of visibility and access. Any woman who gets access to him is dating somebody who has options that almost no other man in the world has. That's why I found it funny when Tana later tries to frame this around building a family. Let's be real. Nobody who understands this situation is looking at Clavicular and thinking, this is the guy I'm going to try to settle down with and build a family. If somebody actually is thinking that, then they're simply choosing the wrong person, and that's more of a judgment issue. Now, that said, one thing that has always fascinated me in these conversations is how often accountability gets removed from the women involved in these dynamics. There's this constant tendency to either infantilize or cast these women as victims regardless of the choices they're making. But you have to account for the variables, okay? This is one of the most famous young streamers in America. He has access to hundreds of women everywhere he goes. He is obviously not looking to settle down right now because, quite frankly, he doesn't have to. Now, personally, I'd recommend that he eventually build a family. I wish more young men pursued traditional values instead of chasing endless hookups. I wish our culture rewarded that instead of rewarding degeneracy, but the reality is that our culture currently incentivizes the exact opposite. Young men are rewarded socially and financially for chasing bodies rather than building families. I wish that incentive structure were completely inverted. I wish Clavicular were setting a different kind of example for the young men who watch him, but that's simply not the culture that we're currently living in America today. Now, as far as Tana saying that there won't be 100 girls who look like Clavicular's girlfriend, that she's supposedly this Victoria's Secret supermodel, Let me tell you something. If she really does look like a Victoria's Secret supermodel, then your entire point just collapsed under its own weight, Tana, because there are hundreds of Victoria's Secret supermodels. Go to a Victoria's Secret runway show and you'll see dozens of them standing on the same stage. You can argue that they're incredibly rare, and sure, they are, but that's exactly the point. If Tana is right and this woman really has that level of value in the dating marketplace, and why would she be subjecting herself to this kind of treatment in the first place? She'd either already have a multi-million-dollar modeling contract, be pursuing one, or at the very least, understand that she has enough value to go after those opportunities instead of chasing a streamer. The reality is that when you're talking about a man who's in the top 1% of the dating pool, he has access to an unbelievable number of attractive women. And guess what? There are a lot of attractive women. People act like beautiful women are some impossibly scarce resource. They're not. Think about it this way, folks. There are roughly 8 billion people in the world. Even if only 1% of women are exceptionally attractive, you're still talking about tens of millions of beautiful women worldwide. In the United States alone, with a population of around 330 million people, if just 1% of the female population were what we call a 10 or an 11, you're still talking about roughly 2 to 2.5 million unbelievably attractive women. Now, where do these women tend to concentrate? In major cities. That's where the social opportunities are. That's where the financial opportunities are. That's where the entertainment industry finds itself. That's where influencers go. That's where models go. That's where people trying to climb the social ladder go, especially if they're looking to hypergamize their way into social or financial security. Take Miami. Miami proper has a population of roughly 500,000 people. The broader metropolitan area around 6.5 million people. But let's just stick to Miami proper. Now, imagine even 10% of the top 1% of attractive women decide Miami is where they want to be because it's one of the biggest hubs for nightlife, influencers, athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and wealthy young men. You're suddenly talking about an enormous concentration of beautiful women all competing in the same marketplace. And I'm not even including the women who immigrate to the United States specifically because they're pursuing careers in modeling or entertainment. Think about women like Gisele Bündchen or Adriana Lima. People who came here because their looks created opportunities. I'm not even counting that population. I'm only talking about women who were already born in the United States. Now, putting it into statistical terms, most men, even the biggest players, are never going to sleep with anywhere close to 100 women in a year. Even if we're being incredibly generous and exaggerating the numbers, let's say somebody somehow sleeps with 100 to 150 women in a year, that's already an absurd number. That's something like 20 times what the average American man sleeps with in his entire lifetime. The average American male has somewhere between 7 lifetime sexual partners. So when people act like Clavicular is somehow going to run out of attractive women, the math simply doesn't work. That's why I had to painstakingly break this down, because I wanted to show you how absolutely ridiculous Tana's point and logic are. There's, in fact, no logic behind whatever she said. She calls herself a grandma. Yeah, grandma. Maybe it's time to log off because you're not really understanding what's actually happening here. Then she says she's fascinated by the psychology behind why people watch Clavicular. The psychology really isn't that complicated. Young men are trying to live vicariously through a fantasy they themselves don't have access to. That's it. For the first time in modern history, young men are struggling to find romantic partners at unprecedented levels. You see this reflected in marriage rates, dating statistics, and birth trends. More and more people are delaying families, delaying marriage, or never getting married at all. If you actually sat down with a college-aged guy and asked him why he watches Clavicular, I think you'd get a pretty straightforward answer. He gets to watch somebody living a life that he wishes he could live. That's what entertainment has always been. Whether it's sports, movies, television, or reality shows, people enjoy watching others experience things they'll probably never experience themselves. It's not some grand psychological mystery. It's entertainment. It's escapism. It's fantasy. That's why people watch it. Now, as far as Clavicular's behavior, the behavior Tana describes as immoral and cruel, specifically the way he supposedly argues with his girlfriend, I'm going to have to take Tana's word because I honestly don't know what specific clips she's referencing. I haven't watched those streams. I haven't seen the moments she's talking about. So for the sake of argument, let's just assume she's accurately describing them and that these arguments really are as cruel and immoral as she's making them out to be. Now, that being said, it's worth remembering who the source is in this situation. Tana has built a career exaggerating stories, embellishing details, and saying outrageous things because outrage generates attention. That's been her entire brand for years. She's like if a madame spoke with the editorial standards of TMZ. And I use the word madame intentionally because if you remember, Tana literally ran an OnlyFans agency. We're talking about somebody who made money facilitating sexual content, now suddenly deciding she's going to sit on a moral high horse and lecture everyone else about how bad degeneracy is. But even if we grant Tana her premise, if you still have to account for the variables we already talked about. First, this is entertainment. It's a reality show format. Reality television has always been driven by conflict. You need drama. You need tension. You need arguments. You need people going back and forth because that's what keeps people watching. Whether that's healthy or unhealthy is a separate conversation. The point is that conflict is built into the format. Second, you're dealing with somebody who has an extraordinary amount of access to women because of his status, his fame, and his money. Again, I'm not saying that's morally good. I'm simply describing the incentives. If you're a young man who has an endless stream of attractive women available to you and your income is directly tied to creating more drama, more chaos, and more viral moments, then you're operating inside an incentive structure that actively rewards your bad behavior. The more outrageous your content becomes, the more views you get, the more views you get, the more money you make. That's simply how internet entertainment works. I'm not saying it's good, I'm just describing the dynamics. So yes, from a purely descriptive standpoint, it's not surprising that somebody in that position would become dismissive or disposable toward relationships. He knows there's another attractive woman waiting around the corner. Again, I'm not defending that behavior. I don't think it's morally good. I'm explaining why it exists. There's a difference between understanding the psychology behind something and endorsing it. Now, to take this even a step further, there's actually a classic meme that illustrates this perfectly. On one side, you have 10 men. On the other side, you have 10 women. Every man's arrow points toward all 10 women because they're generally open to dating across a broader range. Meanwhile, every woman's arrow points toward the single man at the very top. The meme is illustrating hypergamy, the idea that women disproportionately compete for the highest status man. Whether you agree with that framework or not, that's the point the meme is making. And if you're talking about someone like Clavicular, who is objectively famous, wealthy, and socially influential, then yes, he sits much closer to the top of that hierarchy than the average guy. That naturally creates an enormous amount of availability for him. Now compare all of that to who's delivering this criticism. This is Tana Mongeau, the same Tana who built her brand by saying she had sex with a toothbrush. The same Tana who ran an OnlyFans agency. The same Tana who sold nude content for a living. The same Tana who, during the 2020 election, was selling nudes in exchange for people voting for Joe Biden. The same Tana Mongeau who repeatedly made outrageous claims about celebrities over the years because controversy was profitable. So now, after making millions of dollars selling and promoting degeneracy herself, she suddenly decided that it's evil when somebody else profits from degeneracy. That's the hypocrisy I'm pointing out. I'm not endorsing degeneracy. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy, okay? Notice what I'm not saying. I'm not saying Clavicular's behavior is morally good. I don't believe it is. I don't think treating women poorly is morally good. I don't think building an audience around endless relationship drama is morally good. My point is much simpler than that. If you're going to stand on a moral soapbox and condemn someone else's business model, then people are perfectly justified in looking at your own history and asking why those standards didn't apply to you when you were making loads of cash. So how about some accountability? If we're going to play this game, why doesn't Tana apologize for promoting pornography? Why doesn't she apologize to the women she recruited into that industry? Why doesn't she remove all of her nude content from the internet? Now, to be clear, I'm not actually saying she has to do any of these things. Personally, I believe we live in a free market. She can do whatever she wants. She's an adult. She can make her own decisions. But the moment she decides she's going to start moralizing about everybody else's content, then it's completely fair to apply those exact same standards back to her. And that's all I'm doing here. Anyway, back to her arguments. The next part honestly just blows my mind because Tana immediately pivots into trying to victimize this woman. And to me, it feels like she's projecting a lot of her own experiences onto somebody else's relationship. She even brings up her own dating patterns, talks about trying to help her friends in similar situations, and then starts assuming this girl's motives. She commits a classic genetic fallacy by assuming this woman is with Clavicular because she's envisioning building a family with him when, from everything we can see, they're participating in what is essentially a reality show together. Now, if Tana's assessment is true, and if this woman is actually seeing everything surrounding Clavicular, his lifestyle, the constant attention, the nonstop women, the way he lives, and she's still imagining that she's going to build a traditional family with him, then she's simply choosing the wrong partner. That's a lesson she has to learn for herself. At some point, adults have to be responsible for the people they choose to date. Not every bad relationship automatically makes someone a victim. Sometimes people ignore obvious red flags because they're attracted to the lifestyle, the money, the fame, or the attention that comes with it. Now, the irony is that, literally, as I was getting this video ready, this got posted on Clavicular Updates. The same account that first clipped Tana's comments, they posted another clip with the caption, "A girl twerking on Clavicular's stream has been exposed for making videos about how women who hung out with Clavicular are misogynistic and have ruined their lives just months prior." In other words, only a few months ago, she was saying the girls hooking up with Clav on stream are misogynistic and that these women are ruining their lives. Fast forward a few months, and now she's on Clavicular's stream herself. Now, look, here's the thing. Hypergamy is real, folks. A lot of these women understand that simply getting close to a man with a massive platform can elevate their social status. They know he has millions of followers. They know that appearing on his stream gives them exposure. They know they can leverage that attention to grow an OnlyFans, promote social media accounts, sell products, or build whatever businesses they're trying to build. There are incentives on both sides. It's not some one-sided dynamic where everybody except Clavicular is completely powerless. And honestly, I think that's probably part of what's happening with Tana too. Why is she talking about Clavicular? Why is she inviting his girlfriend onto her podcast? Because she's hoping to inject herself into the story. She's hoping the girlfriend comes on, spills everything, creates a huge viral episode, and then eventually Clavicular responds. Maybe he comes on. Maybe they go back and forth. Suddenly, Tana becomes a central character in the entire drama instead of just an outside observer. That's how internet content works. Now, yes, I'm also attributing motive to Tana here. I can't read minds, but when you've watched enough internet culture for as long as I have, you start recognizing these patterns. Everybody wants to become part of the story because becoming part of the story generates clicks, views, subscribers, money. That's the business model. And honestly, all these people just seem so unbelievably soulless to me. Hollywood, influencer culture, so much of this entertainment industry, it just feels spiritually bankrupt. Everybody's chasing attention. Everybody's chasing relevance. Everybody's trying to insert themselves into the next viral moment. And very few people seem interested in asking whether any of it is actually good for them or for society. Anyway, I'm sick of talking about this crap. I've already given it way more attention than it deserves and way more brain power than it deserves. But that's pretty much where I land on all of this. You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you like and subscribe. I don't know if I'll ever make another video talking about this horror ever again, but if you enjoyed this one, share it with a friend. Make sure they see it too. I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care. Peace.